Greetings, you single-celled protoplasms! Welcome to this week's episode of Video Ferox, where we're taking you to the far future of 2150 AD, because the Daleks are back, baby! That's right, me and Brad, we're going to be watching the Dalek Invasion of Earth, 2150 AD. I just said that. Never mind. So settle back, get good and exterminate, and let's roll the trailer.
This is Invasion Earth, 2150 AD. This is Invasion Earth, 2150 AD. Planet Earth has been bombarded by meteorites, subjected to cosmic rays, savagely invaded by men of steel who have no flesh to pierce, no blood to spill. This is 2150 AD, the year when human beings are turned into living dead men, robo-men, the underground slaves of the world's new dictators. (2150 AD), a year that will thrill you and terrify you. No! A year of rebellion, as a brave handful hold out in a last-ditch battle for human survival.
Attention! Resist, and you will be exterminated!
Leading the resistance fighters is Peter Cushing, his most thrill-making role.
Come along!
Aided by Bernard Cribbins, a reluctant traveler into the dangerous future.
Have you seen the girl? Listen, where's the girl?
Ray Brooks, the boy with the knack. Who doesn't find life so easy as the year 2150 AD? Andrew Keir, Jill Kazan, Roberta Tovey, all of them fighting to the death a mobilized band of burnt-out human beings, Robo-Men. With their flying saucers and an army of bloodless, fleshless metal monsters. This is Invasion Earth, 2150 AD. A shattering look into the future.
They're no good! The bombs are no good!
Alrighty, that was the trailer to Daleks Invasion of Earth 2150 AD, starring Peter Cushing and Roberta Tovey and Bernard Cribbins, another name you might recognize. And it was starring also Quartermass from a couple of weeks ago, Andrew Keir. Brad, did you like Daleks Invasion Earth?
I did. I've seen it before, but it's been such a long time that I'd forgotten like 80% of it. So it really was like watching it fresh. Peter Cushing, of course, is awesome. I'll happily watch anything he's in. And everyone else was good. I mean, this is a good film. It's fun. It's got some weird little moments in it that you're like, yeah. But if you just ignore those, you can enjoy the film for what it is. And for a Doctor Who production, it's actually pretty good.
Of the two Dalek movies, I think this one is the stronger one. The shtick is dialed way the hell back. I think the acting is stronger on all fronts. I think that the scope is much bigger and a little more grand. Okay, I really liked the Dalek jungle back in the first one, but like the ruined city of London looks really, really good.
Well, I definitely enjoyed several points from the first movie. Like, the Dalek City itself was just plain fun. But this one, there's more going on. You've got London in the quote-unquote modern time. You've got the ruined future London. You've got bits of the countryside outside of London.
But even with the running around, the story is a lot tighter than the first one. And the Daleks are way more menacing than in the first one.
Oh, I definitely would agree with you there, because here they have a plot that will basically destroy all humanity and turn Earth into a mobile weapons platform. And that's not really all that good. Whereas in the other movie, their plot is simply to destroy the other alien species that coexists on their planet with them. The impact of that threat is a lot more closer to home and a lot more visceral, because it's against Earth and it's against humanity.
There was a quote John Pertwee said about his time in unit on Earth, and he said that a Yeti on the loo in Totting Station is a lot more menacing than a, Zogs from the planet Zog, or something like that. I'm kind of paraphrasing. And that's right, because it's much more grounded in, you can relate to what the hell's going on, versus, I don't really care about the Thals, so there you go. All right, well, why don't we just get on to the spoilers then, and we'll tell you all about this thing.
Silent Breed is people!
So we open on a London street in the middle of the night, and there's this policeman. He's walking along and doing his rounds and checking everything out and making sure everything's copacetic. And the policeman, of course, is played by the always awesome Bernard Cribbins, who, if you don't know the name, you're like, okay, why does that sound familiar? He played Wilfred Mott in the new series. He was Donna's grandfather.
I like his character. He's very, very sensible.
He gets clobbered on the head by the bad guys, and this building blows up, and they grab the jewels, and they run in, and they start driving away, and he is like, oh shit, what do I do? And chases them down, or tries to chase them down, unsuccessful. Wait, there's a police box right over there. I'm going to call for help. Runs over, runs in, and of course it's not a police box, it's Tardis.
Of course, the wonderful moment that we all love about Doctor Who, when the person who is completely ignorant of what the TARDIS is goes in there and is like, the hell is this?
But he's concussed, he's delirious, he passes out seconds later after getting into TARDIS. And so it's not really the, wait a minute, this is bigger on the inside than the outside, the shtick that we all know and love. There is a little bit of shtick that you're like, oh no, this is going to be like the first movie, isn't it? Where, Doctor Who is like, oh, hey, things are going on, we better get out of here, pulls the dematerialization lever, flies off he goes. Meanwhile, outside TARDIS, there's this guy who's running up, and he's going to call for police too, because, oh my god, there's a robbery. And he's about to open the police doors, and this guy distracts him. It's like, well, wait a second, what's going on? No, there's a crime and robbery going on. So he turns away, turns back, and goes to lunge for the police box, but the police box, of course, has vanished, and so he falls on his ass. And I'm like, oh no, don't start doing this again, please. Fortunately, that's pretty much the extent of the shtick.
While they do a few more comedy moments, this is the only one that's really slapsticky. The other ones are a lot more situational.
Yeah, they don't feel forced, and honestly, I think Bernard Cribbins was way better than the guy they got for Ian, so...
I'd agree. There's a bit where, when Doctor Who and the others get captured initially and put into a cell, and Doctor Who uses a comb to break the magnetic seal on the bottom of the door, and they get out, and they're immediately captured by two Daleks, and one of the Daleks says, you've passed the intelligence test. You're now going to be taken to be roboticized. It's like, I totally love that moment. It's like, great, you're smarter than average. Let's go torture you now.
Well, it makes sense in that you don't want the smart ones doing out in the field stuff. They don't want them working in the mines, because smart people will figure out how to formulate a rebellion against you. So what do you want to do? You want to take them and put them under your mind control and turn them into your robotic slaves. So that actually makes a lot of sense from a Dalek standpoint.
It does. It does make a lot of sense. But just the comedic timing of that scene is really funny to me. And I liked it. And you're right about how sensible it was. The nice thing about Tom is that he approaches everything with a very down-to-earth and practical attitude, whereas Ian seemed a lot like a fish out of water. He definitely had some useful skills, but most of the time he seemed like he didn't know what he ought to do next. Whereas with Tom is always like, boom, we'll do this, boom, we'll do that. And he always is up to something.
He takes it in stride. He's like, wait, I'm in the, 2150 AD? Sure, okay, let's run with that. And he hits the ground running just like any other companion, 3 or 4 stories into their run. So we've got, of course, back from the original movie, Peter Cushing playing Doctor Who. And he is, it's Peter Cushing.
Yeah, the guy's awesome.
And then we've got Roberta Tovey. She's back again. And she's pretty much playing the same character, the same acting style. And, I liked her in the first one. So she's pretty good here, too. And then we've got the third companion. And that's Louise Who. And she's not very good.
She brings very little to the story. Her main role, as it were, is to bring in other characters as a contact and essentially recruit them into Doctor Who's group.
She doesn't do anything. She's completely a useless prop. There's this one moment in the original TV series. It's in like episode 5 or 6. And Barbara has been kidnapped and taken by the Daleks to the control center. And she's like sitting there kind of about to be exterminated, and the Daleks are talking to their console, and they're issuing orders to the Robomen. And she's like observing this, and it's like, okay, hey, wait a minute, I can control the Robomen here. So the Daleks are about to exterminate her, and she's like, wait, I've got information that you desperately need to know. And she starts going on about like how Hannibal is coming over the Alps and he's going to be invading from the north, and General Lee, he's going to be invading from the south, and feeding the Daleks this line of absolute bullshit. And all the time she's getting a little bit closer and closer to the console that controls the Robomen. And then when she's got them eating out of the palm of their hand on their back foot, she grabs the console and says, all Robomen, attack the Daleks. This order cannot be countermanded, or something like that. And then there's this little brief skirmish, and they take that moment of agency and bravery from Barbara, and they give it to Doctor Who.
It's a fine moment for him because it's something he would do. He is a master of feeding people bullshit, and he's observant. He'd notice where the controls were.
Well, the first time he comes into the control room, the Daleks are issuing the orders, and he leans in and starts looking things. He's very obviously observing.
And that's fine, but you're right about that. It takes the agency away from Louise's character and takes one thing that was useful for Barbara to do and makes Louise basically a fifth wheel.
You could totally remove her from the movie and not miss a single thing.
All of the contact that she does to bring other characters in, that easily could have been done by Tom or by Susan. But nope, they just had to have a pretty woman in there somewhere.
And even that, she's not very sexy. She's kind of all wrapped up in her big fur coat, and she's not really demure or anything. No. She's just literally a prop. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Andrew Keir, who I don't know a lot of him. In fact, I know 2 movies of him. This one and the Quatermass movie from a couple of weeks ago. And the interesting dichotomy between the 2 roles, because there he's like this thoughtful, intelligent scientist, and here he's just a hard man who is obviously out of his element, but having to fight the Daleks.
Leading a rebellion at that. He's got a rather significant sized unit under his command, but while he seems to be fairly effective as a leader, he is not tactically very smart. And there's things that he could have been doing as a rebel in the ruins of London that would have been running him and his people would have been running circles around the Daleks, and their only real idea is to chuck explosives at them. No, I could have thought of 15 things that would have been far more effective, like using the debris against them. Daleks have to roll on flat surfaces. They are really poorly equipped for getting around piles of crap.
Now, in his defense, he could have been like just a dock worker or a shopkeeper or, a blue-collar dude who has no clue what he's doing forced into this role. So, yeah, he could have been tactically smart. I'm not going to hold it against him.
We don't know anything about his background, and that's actually a bit of a strength in this regard, because you don't really need to get into that sort of depth. But on the other hand, when you watch how he makes his people fight, you're like, wait a minute. What about the guy with the scarf? Why isn't he in charge? He seemed sensible. But no, he was the number 2 guy.
And so the Dalek plot is, okay, it's an absolute whole bunch of nonsense. Do not try and think about why the Daleks are doing this. So what the Daleks want to do is they've conquered Earth, and they are drilling to the center of the Earth, and they're going to take this bomb and drop it into this mine shaft, and it falls down to the center of the Earth, and then it blows up, and it ejects the magnetic core of the planet, which then will allow them to drive the planet back to Skaro, where they can conquer it and use it for their own ends.
This makes no sense at all. I mean, okay, using the Earth as a weapons platform, that makes a bit of sense. But there's other ways you could go about doing it that would be far more reasonable.
Or are you telling me that there isn't a single planet between Skaro and Earth that they couldn't have used for this, that wasn't occupied, that they wouldn't have to be fighting a resistance on? They couldn't have used, like, Skaro's moon?
Also, the other thing about turning off the magnetic field of Earth, if you know about how the magnetic field of Earth actually is generated, you can't really blow it up. It's caused by liquid iron circling around the core.
And I'm pretty sure that the magnetic confluence between the Earth's North Pole and South Pole is in fact not about a half a mile beneath Bedford. We're dunking on this really hard, but I mean, honestly, this is not the worst thing that Doctor Who as a franchise has ever done science-wise. Okay, we're just going to move on then. So in the first movie, I kind of dunked on the DIY version of the TARDIS console room. And, okay, to be fair, they improved it. It looks much sexier and a lot more 60s retro aesthetic. It's still no patch on the original console room still. But I like the look of it. You got some neon, the wires are gone, so definitely took the prototype TARDIS and turned it into a working model TARDIS.
There were little homey touches mixed in as well. Some comfortable chairs.
That I did like the bit of continuity where they've got the giant red lever that Ian actually bumped into. They still have that for the I'm going to fly away now lever, which was kind of a cool continuity touch. I like that.
Another thing I like about this movie are the miniatures. They did some great miniature work on this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's the flying saucer was great, the Dalek ship, and a lot of scenes of both ruined London and the mining area were just great. Sometimes you could be like, yeah, you can tell it's a miniature, but it was a high-quality miniature.
There was the tell where the flying saucers, you could totally see the wires. But, I mean, again, Doctor Who running on a $1.98 budget, that's not the worst sin that the show has ever committed. So I was like, I'm just going to let it slide.
They did some great pyrotechnics at the end when they blew up the mine shaft and the Dalek ship. That was well done.
I did like the look of the Robomen here. They've got this kind of vinyl PVC suit on, this jumpsuit, this black shiny jumpsuit. They've got this motorcycle helmet with like the goggles, the mirror shades on it, and they've got this big radio glued to the side of the helmet, which looks very 1960s future technology.
I love the sequence where Tom points out the radio control unit on the side of the helmet, and Doctor Who pops it open and looks at it and says, "Oh, yes, very sophisticated." And
yeah, it's a bunch of transistors, and you should see like a tube in there or something. It was nuts. It was a transistor radio, basically.
Yeah, just the dichotomy of oh, very sophisticated. And you're looking at that going, that ain't sophisticated at
Yeah,
all.
it's not sophisticated. The sets in general, the destroyed London looks great. It was shot on the back lot of Shepperton Studios, I believe, and so they had a lot of room to play with. And if you look at it, if you watch the opening scene with Tom getting clonked on the head and finding Tardis, and you go and you watch the destroyed scenes later on, you can totally tell it's the same set redressed. Which, A, okay, maybe that's a nod to continuity, or B, they just only have one street to work with, but it still looks good, and it's an economic use of their space.
There's a few points where you're looking at a building and you're like, wait a minute, that's that same building from that earlier shot. They just turned it around. Or they moved the camera around to the back. You know, it works.
There's one change that they did from the original TV show that they did with the movie that kind of annoys me and kind of undermines the setting. Now, the movie was sponsored by Sugar Puffs or something like that, some big cereal. And so they wanted product placement all over the place. And so if you're looking in the background, you see Sugar Puffs, Sugar Puffs, Sugar Puffs all over the place. When in the TV show, when the TARDIS first arrives, in the background behind the TARDIS, there's this big sign that says it is illegal to drop bodies in the water, in the river. And that's kind of a, okay, something's really gone horribly wrong here. What's happening? And that poster has been replaced by a Sugar Puffs poster, which, okay, product placement, yay, whatever. It just kind of not as sinister as it was before.
It seemed like that was important because it kind of established just how weird ruined London was.
Well, and when I was saying that it undercuts the sinisterness of it, I'm not necessarily saying that the movie doesn't have sinister touches. There's this one shot that I really liked, for example, where Tom and his associate are sneaking into the mine shaft because they need to divert the bomb that the Daleks are going to drop and send it over here so that it foils their plan. And as they're getting into the mine shaft and they're looking around and whatnot, there's this sickly green pulsing light. But when they see his friend over there across the mine shaft, and it's like, oh, hey, it's our old buddy from the insurrection. Oh, no, he's been robotized. And as they make that realization, it just kind of fades to black in the pulsing. And then it comes back, and he's like seeing it in profile, and it's really super sinister.
That was a good touch, and I liked that scene, particularly where he's got his helmet back initially, and then they recognize him, and they're like, oh, that's so-and-so. And then he kind of rather slowly shifts the helmet so that the goggles are over his eyes. And it's not like a quick shunk go into action thing. No, it's more like a very deliberate mood setting thing. And I was like, yeah, that's a nice touch.
Another bit that I liked of the mine shaft and the whole mine works scene was Philip Maddox's character. His playing this gun runner, works with the Daleks, bringing in food to the prisoners. He's an absolute just smarmy bastard of a character. I thought his little half smile as he's like selling out Doctor Who, great stuff.
There's a one bit where he's dumped out a little bag and it's like full of jewelry, and he's obviously been collecting it from people that they've been bringing in to do the mining, and he's just got this little smile of, hee, I'm more rich now.
And if you think about the Daleks and their Nazi origin and how obviously Nazis they are, that whole, hey, I've got some gold rings and gold teeth, really layers on the, okay, you're an asshole.
Yeah, it does. He basically goes into the tool shed where Doctor Who has been hiding out and says, I got something to show you. And Doctor Who goes out with him, and there's Daleks everywhere, and they capture the Doctor and haul him away. And then this guy's looking at the Daleks, and most of them haven't left yet. They're all sitting there looking at him.
That look on his face of that realization of the, okay, well, now what are we going to do? oh, fuck, I'm boned. And just that look on his face is so fun. And I mean, yeah, he's going to hide in a plywood tool shed. What the fuck is that going to do against the Dalek death rays? But what else are you going to do?
I mean, it's a great scene. The expression is on his face is just totally priceless. And you've been hating this guy from like the moment you met him. I mean, there's a bit where you're like, in the very beginning of where, after he's been introduced, where you're not really all that sure about him. But, you know, the moment I saw him with the jewelry, I was like, yeah, this guy's a sleazebag.
All right, Brad, I think that's all my notes. So you got a final thought there?
It has everything about a Doctor Who movie that's fun and not as many of the things that are annoying about Doctor Who. It's visually, it's great. You know, the Daleks are menacing and scary, and the characters are all good. Everything about this is fun for the most part.
If you're looking for something that has like a deeper story and more complex characters and nuance to what's going on, you definitely want to go watch the original TV series. Mm-hmm. However, if you just want a fun romp of Peter Cushing running around not getting exterminated for an hour and a half, this movie will absolutely scratch that itch.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, then. Well, let's go to the next week then, shall we?
Let's.
All right, we'll catch you next week.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty, that's the Daleks defeated once and for all. They will never ever show up ever again. You can take that to the bank. Next week, we're going to be wrapping up this subset of smart English people saving the world movies by watching a movie that doesn't really have any smart English people in it, and it's directed by Tobe Hooper. So, not an English movie. Okay, but it's got Tobe Hooper, so yay, that's that. We're going to be watching Life Force, so join us here for that. Drop me an email. thevideonastyproject@gmail.com is the address. And until next week, and until Matilda May whips out her titties, stay evil.
Just as time is regarded as the fourth dimension, so space is equally the fifth dimension. For space knows no boundaries, and it's completely timeless. Now, I'm sure that's made it perfectly clear, eh?
Oh, yeah, perfectly clear.